So sometimes we have an even number of data, and we've talked about what to do with the median when that happens, but let's talk about quartiles and interquartile range. So when we're trying to find the quartiles and the IQR, the first thing to do is find the median. So I've already got my data here in order from least to greatest, so I'm going to start by crossing off the least number and the greatest number, and then repeating until I get down to 1 or 2. So least greatest, least greatest, least greatest. Now if I did that again, I would have no numbers. So I know that I just need to find what's right in the middle of 8 and 9. So I know off the top of my head that's just 9, or 8 and 10, and I know off the top of my head that's just 9, but I could also add. So that would be 8 plus 10 is 18 divided by 2, because there's 2 numbers, equals 9. So my median is 9. So I'm going to call that the median. It is also known as quartile 2. So when we talk about quartiles, remember quart sounds like 4, like quarts in a gallon or quarters. There's always 4 of them. So this right here splits my data in half. So 50% of my data is over on the left side and 50% is over on the right side. Now we're going to split it up even more. We're going to split it up into fourths or quarters. So I'm going to find over here in my lower half of my data the median, okay? And that's going to tell me quartile 1. Okay, so I'm going to cross off least, greatest. If I did it again, I would have no numbers. So I have to figure out what's right in the middle of 7 and 7. Now, notice one thing real fast. Notice how I still crossed off 8. 8 and 10 were the numbers I was left with when I was finding my median. I'm still going to use those for the first half of my data. 8 and 10 are not my median, so I'm still keeping those in my data. I'm not going to cross those off yet until I get to my quartiles. Okay, so right in between 7 and 7, that's just going to be 7. Those are the same number, so it just works out. All right, so quartile 1 is 7. Okay, so that means that this group right here is 25% of my data. This right here is 25% of my data. Now let's find where the other 25 and 25% are. Okay, let's do orange. All right, so over here in the upper half of my data, the upper 50%, so this is 50%, this is 50% because we just cut it in half. Now I'm still going to use my 10 to do my crossing out. So I'm going to cross out the least greatest, and I'm left with 12 and 18, and I need to find the number right in the middle. Now you might say, oh, that's 16, but let's just double check. So I'm going to do 18 plus 12, okay? So 8 plus 2 is 10. 3. Look at that. 30 divided by 2 is going to be 15. So that's right in the middle of 12 and 18. So quartile 3 is 15. Okay? So this right here is 25% of my data, and this right here is 25% of my data. So to find the IQR, interquartile range, we know what range is, the difference between the biggest and the smallest, but instead of doing the range of all my data, 18 minus 6, I'm going to just do the range of my quartiles, so 7 and 15. So I'm going to do 15 minus 7, and that equals 8. Okay, so my interquartile range is 8. So that is what happens when you have an even set of data.